Why am I long Bitcoin? Well, I think the bull argument is very well known. I'm not going to state that again. I mean, long term, I'm bullish. Short term, I'm a little hesitant. Whenever you see Bitcoin or Grayscale occupying 99% of the commercials on CNBC, I tend to get a little hesitant. I just don't like, I get very uneasy when everyone likes the investment I like. I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, I don't like everyone agreeing with me. I like disagreeing with everyone. That's where I feel most comfortable. It's the rebel capitalist, right? So short term, I think there's quite a bit of emotion driving Bitcoin right now. And I think a lot of people aren't really investing. I think they're emotionally investing, which is something different. But long term, I see a lot of asymmetry there. As far as governments banning it, it all depends on how popular Bitcoin gets. I spoke to Raoul Paul about this, and he believes the more adoption, and actually Eric Townsend has this same view, the more adoption it gets, the harder it would be to ban. Because if you've got something that every single pension fund owns, how do you ban that? Maybe you could, but it would be a lot more difficult. And then people could go to a different country. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I think there's a lot of room for it to grow between now and then. I would be more concerned, or I am more concerned about how much emotional buying is going into Bitcoin right now than I am governments banning it. Obviously, the probability of either is above zero, but yeah, I think that's how I'd really look at it. And one thing we need to understand, and I've been saying this in a lot of podcasts that I've been doing, is and this holds true for gold as well. When we think about Bitcoin and gold long term, or when we think about having to completely redo the global monetary system, which is what we're going to need to get back to sustainable quality GDP growth globally. And this goes back to a lot of my conversations with Jeff Snyder, and that I completely agree with him that you're not going to get sustainable GDP growth, quality growth, where we're increasing the amount of goods and services available and being produced by a society in efficient manner. We're not going to get back to that until we have a new monetary system, period. So, and I think we're not going to get back to that until we have a new regulatory system as well. And now maybe there's countries that are deregulating and going in the right direction where you're going to have a lot of capital flows. And that's something we talk about a lot in Rebel Capitalist Pro with Chris McIntosh. He's really got his finger on the pulse of where he believes capital is going to be flowing in the future as a result of things like the Great Reset that we've been talking about with Klaus and Bigglesworth and everyone at the World Economic Forum and the IMF. That is, if that game plan, if that agenda, if they execute on that, that's going to be a reduction of the amount of economic output we have from a standpoint of goods and services. So no matter how much currency units you can pump out of thin air, the society as a whole gets poorer as a result. So, my point here is I think people should be looking at macroeconomics, not just from a standpoint of what the monetary system is going to look like, but also the amount of wealth that is gained or lost by our ability to produce goods and services, right? So it goes back to Bitcoin and gold being perfect money, right? And a lot of people think, oh my gosh, if we could just get back onto a gold standard, or oh my gosh, if Bitcoin was just global money and that was it, we didn't have any fiat currency. If Bitcoin can just be this Trojan horse that people start to adopt, and before the governments can do anything about it, all of a sudden it's taken over the world, it's going to solve all of our problems. And it's going to be this new global monetary system we need to start from scratch and build on a solid foundation. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, and I've talked to Raoul about this, I've talked to Jeff about this, I've talked to a lot of people who are way smarter than I am, and we all come to the same conclusion. And that conclusion is you can have perfect money, but if perfect money is owned by imperfect creatures in an imperfect world, we can't expect perfect money to perform perfectly. And so I think Bitcoin has a lot of asymmetry. I think it's a great speculation long term, but I don't think it's a panacea. And I don't think gold is a panacea. I think it's better than our current system, but it's not a silver bullet that just fixes everything. And if you want to think through what a Bitcoin world may look like, just go back to gold. And when we had full reserve banking, and when we went from that to free banking, and then the banks were nationalized before the Civil War, and then central banking in 1913, and then think through what happened at Bretton Woods in 1944 and why that spawned the euro-dollar system we have today that completely broke down in 2008. Go through that whole thought process and then just plug in Bitcoin for gold. And I realize it would be more decentralized. We wouldn't have the banking system, or maybe not as big of a banking system, because you wouldn't really have a need to store all your gold. But at the end of the day, if we have a war, if we have a national disaster, you're going to have people creating Bitcoin IOUs just like they created gold IOUs. And people forget fractional reserve banking is not a construct of the government. That is a construct of free banking and the actual private sector. It's a construct of the free market. So I think we need to remember that for sure.